Thank you.
I'd like to say something and add to Councilwoman Green about the situation up until with that business. And the way I look at it, the way that's going, that has more of an effect on residents and the square footage of that area than Williams Lake project does. Mr. Morrison stopped at my house and basically told me, not basically, told me that, you know, the planning board really can't do anything to stop me. And I thought about that and thought about that, and I thought that's pretty sad when we spend out endless hours on a chicken lot, endless hours on a sign lot. And we have a gentleman in that small area that it started out 17 cars, extremely minimal service work, and that now is full-blown to, correct me if I'm wrong, he's good for 64 cars?
Well, he's not.
You can't stop him, but he's going to be good for 64 cars.
It's not necessarily true that we can't stop him. There's nothing.
But that's what you told me.
There's nothing specific in the code, but there are things in the code for the greater good that the planning board may be able to have some leverage. But
Okay.
there's nothing.
But when you told,
specific in the code.
right, because when you,
And he's requesting 64 cars.
yeah, so when you told me is that there's really not too much they can do about it, and I think with all those residents that are close proximity of that property, that have their own wells, their wells are from the ground, not a water system. God forbid that he has an environmental issue up there with oil spill, ground contamination, antifreeze, transmission fluid. I walked behind there the other night, and it is flat disgusting. It is disgusting. And it may not happen this year or next year or 3 years from now, but once again, I think it's sad that we have a situation like that in the middle of a residential area. I live right up there by it, and I have complained not once about it because it's out of my hands, but I'm being fair and looking at all the issues in our town, and I think it's just a crying shame that these agreements were put on him all along. As I understand, every time that something was enforced, it was never abided by, and just took advantage of the situation. And I think these are the things, agreeably so, Councilwoman Green, that we do have to look at a lot closer, because when you establish a priority list, I think that would be a little bit higher on the priority than a lot of the other things we've been addressing that is important, but not as important as that.
Well, I'd like to answer. But, you know, we can write all the code we want. We can have all the laws we want. But the key to all of this is enforcement. And I don't want to throw darts, but we at times have had a lack of enforcement and follow-up. And I think it's important. You know, we spend a lot of time in the ZRC writing code. Whether it gets adopted, that's a whole separate issue. But if the enforcement isn't there, you might as well have a blank piece of paper. And as you mentioned, there have been enforcement issues ever since this started. And pardon me? Oh, you stumped his nose at it. And I suspect that whatever we do this time, we'll get the same reaction. So, unless you have enforcement of code means anything.
Well,
Code means nothing.
from what you told me, and from exactly that, and being overburdened, I guess, the enforcement officer, because when he enforces things, then he ends up in court. So, I mean, it seems like we have a lot of issues going on in town, I think, and that he just can't stay on top of it, and individuals know this situation and just thumb their nose at it and just do exactly what they want, and somehow we got to stop it.
Well, I think I'd just like to say something about the enforcement issue, because this gentleman has been before the planning board at least 3 times. Is that right, Billy?
Yes.
And that's the reason that he was before the board 3 times, because he was in violation and because he was cited. So you can't say that there was no follow-up. There was follow-up. That's why he ended up coming back to the board. He had violations, he was cited for them, and the results of those citations was that he came back to the board to redo his plan.
But he's never been in front of a judge.
What, that's not the case, that's the next step. I mean, but, you gotta give the opportunity to anyone, whether it's one person like him or someone else. I mean, what are you supposed to do? If the person's willing to correct their violation, everybody's given that opportunity. So, you can't fault the code enforcement officer if he goes there and cites a violation, and the process is that he comes back before the planning board to fix the citation. So, yes, Jen?
Comment actually, and a question for the board. What the environmental commission's comments on that application, we had offered a set of best management practices to prevent groundwater contamination that, and the applicant has agreed to, and the planning board, to attach them as an addendum to the site plan, so that will be required of the applicant. There's a number of pretty basic things, like if you have cars that, you're fixing up to sell and they're potentially leaky, you put hands under them so they're hard to, things like that. But again, it's an issue of a question of enforcement. And I have a question actually on that for the board, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but what came up in the planning board meetings a lot when some planning board members raised that, look, this guy violated the site plan numerous times, why should we give him more costs? A response from some other planning board members was, well, that's enforcement, which is separate from, what the planning board does. But it seems to me that, it's all one town, and all of that information should be considered, but I don't know, I guess it's a legal question, but I think it would help the planning board if I really, what do you think about this? But if there was a legal answer to that, if they can take that information into account for that, there have been violations of previous items when doing that. And just a final comment on the setback idea, the board has at some point considered the DRC's code and the design guidelines. That would be like a great place to put it. There's commercial, the DRC actually started the in-house development commission, but now it's been developed to apply to all commercial and industrial development in town with their design standards and guidelines, and that would be a perfect place to talk about setbacks.
And that's great. And backing up what you said about oil absorbers and stuff and basins, I guess that's really, it would be neat in the make-believe world and it would happen, but reality, I see how they operate. I've been over there countless times without calling the police, spitting up and down the road, Orchard Street's about 500 feet, pulling out on the highway, peeling out, this and that. I know just the person who it is, he gives me a lot of lip. And to tell you the truth, I'm pretty close. I've just taken my tractor and parked in a perpendicular in the road because, we address bats, we address rocks, we address everything, which is all well and good. But when we don't use common sense for something that is right there in front of our face, and a person that doesn't abide by the law or any consideration of knowing what his do's and don'ts, and when the planning board sets forth guidelines and snubs, we're not splitting an atom here. I just don't know why we can't get into these codes and start making them more strategic so that it doesn't happen in the future. I guess it appears that we're not going to be able to do much in this situation, which is sad with all those residents living, but
We'll find out on the second Thursday in August.
that's great.
Hopefully we will.
I appreciate it. Just to pass on, because I have a lot of the residents coming to me, obviously, because I live right there, and they come to me and ask me, what's going on with this, and A lot of it's on their fault, because if people don't attend meetings and get involved and know what's happening in their town, they can't wait till the last minute till it affects them directly, then all of a sudden pop up. It just,
And call the police, and call the code enforcement office. When you see a code violation, make a call. Stop
Especially,
it.
you know it's affecting you. Makes
Yeah.
sense to call.
I mean, that's part of the problem, you're absolutely right.
I don't like to be,
People have seen this happening, and they haven't been proactive in trying to stop it. And that's what.
Well, here's my question. I don't like talking about the planning board too much because it bores me to death. But the fact is what's the mechanism that triggers a decision from the planning board to a follow-up of the code enforcement officer?
Nothing.
There is none.
It's the code enforcement officer that triggers an applicant like this coming to the planning
A
board.
citizen complaint triggers the code enforcement.
So basically, any citizen can take it upon themselves. So we have a dozen decisions you, the planning board, have made over the past 8 years. And I can probably pick up, like I said, a dozen of them that I know the particulars of the decision made was never followed through on.
That is a building, we put
Here we
together
are.
a site plan.
Here we go, because we're being reactive instead of proactive here. The fact of the matter is there should be a mechanism on the planning board to follow up, to say, has this been met? Has this criteria been met on our decision? To whatever time frame you come up with, and make it to the code enforcement officer saying, we've given this guy whatever time frame to come up. And have you followed through on all the stipulations that we've agreed to and we've granted the applicant?
You're absolutely right. I agree with you 100%. But the way the process is defined today, the planning department looks at a site plan, puts together all the required rules and regulations, hands it over to the building department that is supposed to go down through that site plan, and before they give a CO, all those have to be met. And if after the CO, somebody violates them, then there's supposed to be a citation.
Well, you can put conditions. You know, when you do your approval, you could put conditions there.
You're right, and we
And then,
do.
you know, if
Then
they,
it's up to the building
the
department.
conditions could be that if X number or so many violations, it's revoked. That could be a condition. That's one option. I want to talk about one other thing since this whole subject's come up. I mean, I know that the ZRC is coming close to finishing up. I talked to Gary and Nana had reiterated that, but one of the things that the planning board has complained about all along while this process has been going on, and you guys have brought it up tonight, is that there's holes in the code that are not being addressed. And if we're going to put a new code, if we're going to, put code in place because we have to bring it up to the comprehensive plan, we should be addressing the list of things that you're talking about right now. And this is one of those things. There's codes on the books that have not been fixed when we know over and over and over as a planning board that we couldn't make decisions that we wanted to make because there were holes in the code. So really that needs to be addressed too.
Well, in offline, you and I ought to have a discussion about that.
It's fine.
Because the ZRC tried to do that. The planning board agreed at the time that they were going to take that on. The representative to the planning board and the ZRC said, the planning board will cover the holes in the code. That's exactly what they were called. And that was never done. And it was taken away from the ZRC by the planning board member who at the time was the ZRC rep. That was one of our top 8 items were the holes in the code. And they were taken away from the ZRC.
Well, you know what? I will have that conversation with you another time because you know what? I don't want to be pointing fingers and, you know, so
You and I ought to have that
that's
discussion
fine.
in the history of it.
because,
But
you know.
it's not too late.
Yeah, I'm just saying, yeah,
It's not too late.
yeah, it's not too late and I'm talking about what needs to be done, make a good point. It's not about pointing fingers, okay? This is not, the process is not done
I wasn't
if we
pointing
haven't
fingers.
fixed these
I
problems.
was telling you about the history of how this.
Well, I'm not going to agree with you on that because I've heard other stories about this situation that you're talking about. So everybody's got their opinion about how it went down. You have one opinion, somebody else has another opinion. So that's a personality issue, and I'm not going to discuss that here.
It's not, but we're
Jen?
going to have a discussion.
Just to address
is Resolution 7/2012-2. A resolution consolidated funding application for Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation Grant. Whereas the town of Rosendale is currently without a working pool and is looking to secure funding to assist with the renovation and reconstruction of the town pool. And whereas consolidated funding is offering grants for Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation, which the town of Rosendale is eligible for. And whereas the town of Rosendale will be applying for the said grant for the maximum allowable amount of $500,000. And now therefore be it resolved that Jean L. Walsh, as supervisor of the town of Rosendale, is hereby authorized and directed to file an application for funds from the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation in accordance with the provisions of Title IX and the Environmental Protection Act of 1993 in an amount not to exceed $500,000, and upon approval of said request to enter into and execute a project agreement with the state for such financial assistance to the town of Rosendale for the Rosendale Pool project, and if appropriate, a conservation easement and preservation covenant to the deed of the assisted property.
I'll second. Have we still looked into the roof money from the Office of Parks and Rec?
I believe, I'm pretty confident that, I shouldn't say confident, but they've, person I've been talking to, is saying that they don't see any reason why I shouldn't be able to get that money, so they just wanted, they're waiting for this report also. So I thought that would probably be appropriate for it to go for the engineering money.
Is that money still in the dormitory association?
Yes.
Dormitory authority? Yep.
And, when I talked to her, she said, write a letter. She wanted to see the engineering stuff, though we only just got that yesterday, so we'll follow up on that.
And I want to say that having gone through the CFA applications are not easy.
I will be there. If anybody's looking for me, I'll be at the town hall until Monday. I'm thinking of putting a bed in there.
But they try to make one size fit all, and one size doesn't fit all, so it makes it really
Well, we
difficult.
started out trying to apply for 2 grants, and unfortunately, if we had a better understanding because this other grant would have been about demographics, the income levels, and because we couldn't prove that the pool is used by the county, and that they're the actual. So if we had some foresight, we would have done a survey during the time when the pool was open, and we knew we were going to be applying for grants. But because we didn't do that, I had called them and they said, if you don't have, we tried to throw a survey together for the campers and the people that we knew used the pool, and they said, no, if you didn't have a survey from last year, you couldn't do it. So unfortunately, that didn't work out. But
when we do get through this whole process and get it up and going, then we should, as
Absolutely.
keep really good records.
Absolutely. I mean, we keep records, but this is about like asking some specific questions when someone, pays income. Yeah. Okay, so the next.
To that point, I mean, if we're not successful with this grant, and one of the criteria for this grant was this poll of the residents, would it be possible to, on our pool project page on the website, to take a poll on the website as to those people who have used the pool in the past and solicit comments?
I think that it's worth exploring. When I spoke to them, they were saying, if you didn't do something last summer, you can't do it, okay? But there's going to be other things we can apply for, and I think that it makes sense to, let's say when at the street festival, you could have a questionnaire, do you use the pool? You could start doing some of this outreach when you have contact with people that say, oh, I use the pool, I raised my kids at that pool, I mean, many people, I'm not, my kids are all grown up, but when my kids were young, I got up in the morning, went to the pool, they did all their activities, we stayed at the pool, we went home at dinner time. And I know there's many families like that, and.
Almost every family went to summer camp.
And besides that, people that maybe didn't utilize the pool, or the summer camp, but did come down and my kids learned how to swim here.
Yeah,
Obviously,
swim
we use the
teams,
pool,
swim lessons,
so many of
camp.
our residents have learned to swim in our pool.
And I think,
that's a positive too.
absolutely, but I think the thing that we really have to stress is how much we service the whole county. I mean, we're a centrally located pool, we're large enough to be someplace that people that are living, I can't tell you how many people have knocked on the door at Town Hall and said, can't you just patch that pool together? I'm like, no, I live in this town, that town, so they don't live in Rosendale, but they want to know when that pool's done.
Well, you also take tax money, and if you keep taking things away from people, it's like, well, why should I pay taxes? The town doesn't offer anything. And I think having that zero walk-in that you're talking about, if we go that route, I think that'll be great for not just the kids, but the older people. There's probably a lot of older people come down saying, well, I don't want to go down the ladder, I'm afraid, or I'm nervous. But having a walk-in, it may get older people to say, now I can go down and at least get wet on those hot summer days, so.
Right. Well,
Expand our senior swim.
right.
Right.
Well, we have a ramp in there now, but it's not up to code, and that's one of the reasons we have to change that. But, that's why Brookside could use it because of the ramp, because it's bringing the wheelchair right down to the edge of the water. So I definitely agree that, having the zero clearance and take away the kiddie pool, put some pump up, spray things that
Right,
keep the
that
kids
would be
warm,
great.
cold. All right, the next thing on the list is a contract for Crosspoint for the water sewer department. Their warranty wore out, so that's why we're doing a contract now. So, resolution 7/2012/3, customer service and maintenance agreement for telephone system at 136 Creek Locks Road, Water and Sewer Department, whereas up-to-date communications technology is essential for smooth and efficient operation. Whereas the town board of the town of Rosendale contracts with Crosspoint Solutions for telephone and communication services. And whereas Crosspoint Solutions has submitted an annual contract for renewal of service and maintenance in the amount of $400 for the telephone system at the water and sewer facility. Said contract, which is attached here too and made a part hereof. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Rosendale hereby approves the aforementioned service contract.
I'll second it.
Nobody wants to pay this one.
Roll call, Councilman Young,
Yes.
Councilwoman Green. Councilman Hassett,
Yes.
Councilman Ryan,
Yes.
Supervisor.
Yes.
I just want to, I shoot it in here, and I should have done it earlier, it was on my mind when Jeannie was sitting here. But Sunday, my wife and my sons and I stopped down at Twisted Foods, and she just went over backwards, and the food down there is delicious. It is really good. So I'm passing the word, I wanted to, as a council person, we look after our community, we always should look after our businesses. And it was on my mind to say it, and now I think I didn't know if she went out to talk, but I think she's gone for the evening, so I just wanted to pass that on. I hope she does really well with the food that I ate down there. I can't believe she's not going to do well, so I just wanted to let everyone know, if we get a chance, stop in and try it.
I appreciate that, Bob, and I would like to make one other comment about something that I should have mentioned during community issues was that the Associated Food Market opened last Friday. They had a grand opening, and it was a very, very, very well-attended event. People were lined up to get with their carts to get in. It was amazing. And I think that they did a great job. It's very clean. They invested a lot of money. I really, really want to stress how important it is to support your local businesses. And I know that everybody in this town was hurting from the fact that we didn't have a supermarket for so many years. But I can't stress enough how important it is that we go to that supermarket and use that supermarket and not look at it as a convenience store, because it won't be successful. It has to be the place that you think of when you want to go grocery shopping. We have to make that effort to say, I'm going to support my local business. I don't want my town to turn back into a ghost town. So I'm just gonna put that out there, and I hope everybody, you know, really, really makes that effort. I think it's important. I'm sorry we're off track on that.
And actually, Kenny and I are upset because we didn't get any camera time. You logged it all, so we're really not talking.
Well, that says a little bit.
It was a great event, just to echo what Gene said, how many years have we gone without a supermarket? We've sat in this very room and had a discussion on how we need to invite some sort of supermarket to come to our area. We finally got one, and being in the supermarket business, I can tell you that it's going to be imperative that we patronize this place, and more so than just on a convenience store level. And the only thing I can ask, we can't dictate your shopping preferences, and all the years since the old food center closed, we've all developed different shopping habits, and it almost seems convenient to go to Kingston or New Falls to do our chores and our rounds. And it may involve, retraining ourselves that, maybe right here in Rosendale, we have what we need when you consider travel costs and all those things. Just to the point, go in, look at it, give it a fair shot.
And I think,
Because nobody's going to agree, there's going to be people who say, it's cheaper somewhere else, or I like this, or I like that better, and that's fair. But all we can say as a town board is to encourage our townspeople to at least go in, look around, check it out, and I think you're going to be surprised that we have a resource here in town that we wanted, we need, and that we finally got.
And we can
And
be
so
proud
it's up
of
to us to keep it.
yeah,
Well, the fact is that if anybody here goes up to the manuals, you see a lot of people from Rosendale shopping. Like, we got a grocery store right in town now. It was nice, I didn't make the opening on Friday, but I stopped there today to grab some stuff for dinner. It was nice to see the parking lot was packed and people come home from work and pick up stuff.
And when I was online and I was speaking to some of the people that reside in Night Falls, Stone Ridge, that frequent Emmanuel's, and their biggest thing was that their meat selection, deli, was noticeably cheaper down here than at Emmanuel's. I don't like to compare stuff like that, so I'm just repeating.
well, and the other thing is, let's be honest, it's had a bad reputation, in the past, because of the fact that the plaza deteriorated so much. But I believe that they have put a huge effort, and they've done a great job in revamping this space. And it's a nice, clean, new store. And anyone that has reservations about going there because of what it was like before, I hope you give it a chance, because it really, really deserves it. And these guys have put a huge investment in there, and it's a nice store. And I'm very, very pleased with the results, and I think everybody else will be too if you give it a chance.
I guess it's public knowledge. I mean, Paul and Raj said that they put $500,000 into that building, so.
Yeah. Billy?
You gotta consider with Dollar General there and the grocery store now, there's a nexus there that if they're both successes, that they will improve the store between them.
That's right.
And maybe a drugstore will come.
That's the gossip.
And the fact is that other businesses that we're missing, like you're talking your pharmacy and your hardware store, they're not going to come if they see that nobody's patronizing the ones that have just opened up. So think about that too. So.
And we have a fine insurance company just on the top of the hill from there.
I've been there.
Yeah? I was going to say, if you haven't stopped it, you'd like it.
All right, so that's my little spiel from the economic development end of things. So, you have anything to say, Dennis?
Yes, I actually talked to Paul and Raj. This was supposed to open months ago,
Right.
but they kept seeing how much work had to be done. And they said, look, it's better to open later than what we wanted to. Even if we're going to miss the 4th of July, we're just going to keep working till we get this done and do it right, because it may have spent a fortune.
Yeah.
I know we've had other markets in there, and they put money into it. Paul and Roger have other businesses, other associated businesses with you.
Yep.
No, they have the money they put in, now it's just kind of up to the town government. I
Yeah.
have some,
And I have to say that when a couple of months ago, I was in there, and I can testify that the place was completely, everything was gone.
yeah,
So all the equipment had been removed,
yeah,
down to the sinks, and
everything.
everything had been replaced. So, you can be confident that it was all replaced, and we got good working equipment, and it's all new.
So you mean the government can stuck behind the door and we need to say it's all done?
I'm sure they're gone now.
They're going now, yeah.
That sink is gone.
Just on one,
Okay, go ahead.
for anybody who don't know what we're talking about, the smell is gone, okay?
Yeah.
The smell is gone.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that building had a black cloud, no matter who took it after the food center closed down, no matter what reincarnation, no matter what they did to brighten it up and paint it up and make it look pretty, it still had that smell. And it had to do with the old cases and the drains. And those things are all gone now. I mean, that's what most of the,
And the roof, and the leaky roof,
And the-
which
and the
now it's a new
leaky roof,
roof, so
yeah.
that's not a case even.
so
And
the smell is gone.
yeah, so that's a big one. So I think we said that.
I think we did.
Okay, so, the next one is for the, authorization for the Safeco alarms for the youth center. Resolution 7/2012, 4. Authorizing the supervisor to enter an agreement with Safeco Alarms for the Rosendale Youth Center, whereas the town board of the town of Rosendale has contracted with Safeco Alarm Systems for alarm monitoring and reporting systems on all of its buildings since 1979, and whereas the town has determined that it is necessary to ensure the safety and well-being of town employees and the public by continuing such relationship. And whereas Safeco Alarm Systems has submitted a contract renewal request to the town of Rosendale Youth Center for such professional services, a copy of which is attached hereto and made a part hereof. And whereas the supervisor is authorized to request repair or replacement when needed. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Rosendale hereby authorize supervisor to enter a contract for such professional services.
I'll second it.
Just a quick thing.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused, it says 636
Yeah.
everywhere except on the actual bill itself.
Yeah, I think-
31.
I believe that Deb and I talked about this, and we think they had recently had an installation of a new system, because the system wasn't working, and there's a balance due on that.
Okay.
But the actual contract is for 636.
Roll call, Councilman Miller?
Yes.
Councilman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. Back to the building department again. Tom has proposed some minor increases. And if you look on page 2, was $50 for accessory buildings, under 400 it's 55. Fuel burning devices 55, electric upgrade 55, and generators 55.
The reason for these upgrades, especially on the last three, the fuel burning devices, electrical upgrades, and repairing generators, it's forced under New York State law that for all propane, natural gas, or fuel oil, that you have to go back and now start inspecting the installations. We just spent money sending Tom to LP gas school, so not only is he versed, he's probably one of the only building inspectors in the county that is versed in LP gas code and installation practices. So that's why there's a repeated process going back to these units. So that's why we upgraded. There's more time involved. I think $5 extra is a very generous upgrade in price since it's causing another 2 or 3 trips to a
Resolution 7/2012-5. A resolution amending the fee schedule for the building department, whereas the building inspector for the town of Rosendale has proposed amending the fee schedule for the town of Rosendale, a copy of which is annexed here to made a part hereof, and whereas the town board of the town of Rosendale recognizes the need to amend the fee schedule to address increased expenses as well as the time constraints associated with implementing the permits involved in the fee schedule. Now therefore be resolved that the town board, town of Rosendale adopts the proposed fee schedule to be effective immediately.
I'll second that.
Councilman Miller?
Yes.
Councilwoman Green? Yes. Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. Saturday and Sunday, July 21st and 22nd, Rosendale Street Festival. Saturday, August 4th, Rosendale Library. What?
Jill, you still looking for volunteers?
I'm still looking for volunteers for everything and anything. All weekend.
Meeters and greeters, shake people down for money.
Yep. Contact Jill.
Yes.
Yeah, Street Fest. August 4th, Rosendale Library used book sale from 10 to 3. Rosendale is going to be having 2 different bike races are going to be coming through town. The Wildcat Epic Bike Race on August 11th and 12th, and on Sunday, September 9th, the Survival of Chewongun's Triathlon, and then on, actually 3, and on September 23rd, the Grand Fondo Gungs is celebrating cycling. So 3 bicycle events in the next 2 months. Watch where you drive. We are going to go into executive session to address a particular issue with a particular person, but before that, yes? Who's asking? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you frame it so what it means? I think that's what it is. Is it personnel issue?
It's a personnel issue.
You get too specific, there's 6
It
items.
has to be specific. If it's a particular person and location.
Budget district, admin district, credit district, motion,
Or what?
or just
Business.
Employment.
That's his pet peeve, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're actually trying to see if the Keys of Fame would donate any money towards the pool. Okay.
They've reached out to us, though.
Bill told me to call.